So what I'm going to build is an image generation agent, and the idea behind it, or one of the ways that you can use it, is you can give it to another agent as a tool to use. So maybe you're using a marketing agent or a document creation agent to create a specific type of document, and you always want to have an image or two in there. So you could provide this agent that we're going to build to that other document creation agent as a tool and instruct it. When the document is finished, always include 2 images. You have an image generation agent you can use to get those images. So always do so, kind of thing. So we're thinking about it like a tool, effectively. It is an agent, but it's a tool. And it's a concept that I speak to quite a lot. You might have heard me say it before about narrow AI and keeping job descriptions of agents deliberately narrow and really clear. It's tempting in a process like this. It would be tempting to build the document creation agent that also is doing the research before it starts making the document, and then also give it the capability to create its own images. At that point, it's got 3 separate jobs to do, and you start then to get to a point where the agent might not follow that workflow or those steps in the right order. It might skip something. It might make its own assumptions and start to hallucinate. The temperature setting on an agent like that would be important to play with as well. But ultimately, narrow AI and building really clear, really narrow agents allows you to then use them as tools, and you can use them in different ways. Then, if all this agent does is generates a really good image based on the information that it receives, then you could imagine using it for lots of different tasks. Whereas if its image generation capability is embedded in another agent that has a whole other workflow that it has to go through, suddenly you can't really call on that capability when you need it. So let me start sharing my screen and I'll get stuck in. So I'm going to start by creating a new workspace to do this. So I've just clicked on workspaces and there's a little drop down menu there, and I'll go create workspace, and let's go image generation. Now, if this was for production and not just a demo, I would build this inside whichever workspace I was doing the other things in, if that makes sense. I guess I could also share it. So for now, I'll build it inside image generation. But if, say, I needed it in the content flywheeling workspace, I could either build it in there or I could share it to that workspace as well. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get the use case brainstormer agent, which helps you go from kind of an idea all the way to the agent's instructions being ready effectively. I've got a prompt here that I've pre-written, which I'm just going to whack in. And I can read out what that says as well. It says, this agent specializes in taking the content of posts, blogs, comments, or requests from a user and using the contents to first generate a comprehensive prompt for an image to accompany what it received. The agent will have clear instructions on the branding and design, such as hex colors, and should incorporate those into the prompts it creates so that every image generated is on brand. The agent will have a Gemini image generation tool it should use once it has created the prompt for the image to generate the image and return it to the user. So I don't know if you've heard of Nano Banana, but that's the tool effectively that we're using.
Yeah, are you going to share that chat in the chat?
Yeah, I can do. Sure, let me do that.
Thank you.
Here we go. Cool. So use case brainstormer is designed to get us to the point where we've got a brief for the agent that we're going to build, and then it can hand off that brief to an agent that will write the instructions for us. So it's saying, to make sure I'm on the right track, I have a couple of questions. Who will be using the agent? Is this for a specific team? Let's say question 1, anyone in the company. Question 2, where will the images be used? Nowhere specific. Assume anywhere. I'm expecting it to ask me some more questions now, so I'll work through these. At any point in this process as well, if you're using use case brainstormer and it's asking loads of questions and you're starting to get frustrated, you can just say, just write me the brief. Let's just skip this, get on with it. What it's asking now is to confirm the steps of the workflow. Because this agent will be used by anyone, could appear anywhere, we should treat this as high stakes. The most important thing is ensuring every image is high quality at the same time. The task itself is a fairly straightforward one. My recommendation is a single highly focused agent. So it's basically just making the same assumption that I was before I came into it. If you come to this agent, if you come to use case brainstormer with an idea that's only half formed, this process that it's going through now is designed to help you figure out, is this one agent? Is it a workflow? Is it a team of agents with, say, an orchestrator and other agents it can call on when it needs? But thankfully, it's making the same recommendation that I was, that it can just be a single focused agent. It's saying we can create a file, let's call it branding guidelines. I'm not going to let it do that. I'm going to correct it. I'll just say, yes, a single agent is perfect, but we won't use a guidelines file. I'll just give you some hex values to write into the brief. So the goal is answering all of the questions that use case brainstormer asks until it starts to write us a brief. And at any point you can just ask it for the brief, like I said. Sounds good. We'll embed the branding information directly. Before I draft the brief, I'll need those branding details. Perfect. Right, I've got those. So all I'm going to give it, I'm just going to copy and paste this, which I dug out for the session. Oh, that's pasted inside a code block. Doesn't really matter. Those are the hex values that we use as a brand. So I'm going to ask it to put those into the brief or into the agent that we're going to create so that it can use those when it uses the tool. You could go into more detail here, right? When you're building this, if you wanted to, you could attach a PDF of your whole brand guidelines if you want, or you could put that PDF in the content area and say the agent has access to the brand guidelines PDF, and it should always look there before it creates its image. So this is what I was expecting from use case brainstormer. Eventually, it's creating an artifact or a document in the right-hand window. And when you're doing this for real and not just rushing through a demo like I am, read these really carefully because it's going to dictate what the instructions and what the workflow is for your agent that you get out. So I'm just going to assume that it's nailed it, and I will say, yes, brief looks good. Please get the agent instructions now from prompt writer. So use case brainstormer and prompt writer work together as a team effectively. So use case brainstormer's job is create a brief that the user is happy with. At the point where we have a brief, offer to submit that brief to the prompt writer, and the prompt writer will write the instructions for the agent that we're building in this project. So this is probably going to take 2 or 3 minutes now. This is prompt writer receiving the brief and writing the full agent instructions for the image generation agent. Once it's finished, use case brainstormer will give those back to us, hopefully, and then we'll go and create the agent. Cool, here we go. So if you haven't seen a block of agent instructions that looks like this, don't be worried about it. It looks a bit like a developer code language kind of thing. Prompt writer is instructed to write system prompts like this using XML, which just clearly shows each section. So you've got an operating context section, for example, workflow and instructions section, and it's really nice and clear so that when the language model receives that information, it knows a nice structured layout for the agent.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's finished. I'm going to hit copy, and then next to my workspace name, I'll hit the plus and go create agent. And we'll call this Nano Banana Auto Hive Images. And then I've pasted in the instructions that we just got from Prompt Writer. For the model settings, you don't need to change this, but because I'll show you in a second, we're gonna use the Gemini image gen tool, which is effectively Nano Banana. I'm also going to use Gemini as the model. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to also leave the temperature at 0.7. If you're not familiar with temperature, it controls creativity. And because the job of this agent is to write a really good prompt and then use the prompt to get the image, I want it to have some creativity. If I dial that down to 0, it would probably write a pretty rubbish prompt. So I want it to have some creativity. And then here, we're going to go add integrations and agents. And we should see Gemini image here. And if we look at the description, it says advanced AI image generation and editing powered by Google's Gemini 2.5 Flash image preview, which is effectively the name of Nano Banana. So we're going to add that. You have to give it a description before you can save it. So I'll just say generates on-brand images from information or descriptions we provide. So that's it. Now we've got the agent, and what I didn't do, which I should have done, was just confirm the steps that it goes through in its system instructions. I'm unsure whether it will pause after it's created its prompt and say, does this prompt look good? Do you want me to get the image now? Or whether it'll just go all the way through the process. So we'll find out in a second. I've got 3 ideas here. I'll put them in the chat one at a time in case you want to use them and do the same thing. Here's the first one. And these are just ideas that I've asked a language model to give me. It's probably even more information than you might provide yourself. But I've just whacked in the first idea, and we'll see whether it pauses after it's written the prompt or whether it just goes all the way. Yeah, it's going to go all the way. So depending on how you want to use this agent, right, after you've built it, you might want that. You might want the step in between where it stops and says, here's the prompt for your cyberpunk cafe idea. Are you happy with the prompt? Do you want to tweak it before I go and get the agent, go and get the image? And you might want to do that in order to use less tokens generating images where the first draft is rubbish, for example. That one's not bad. So that's a bit of fun. You could also change the instructions to say, I want photorealistic images instead of clearly animated ones. I'm actually going to ask it, can you make it photorealistic instead, please? And I'll flick through the other ideas in case anyone else is testing their versions. There's idea number 2 in the chat. And there's idea number 3 in the chat. Okay, still not super photorealistic, right? Some more tweaking required with the original agent potentially to make it do that more consistently. But I'll try it. I'm going to try it with another one now. I'm just going to start a new conversation. I'll chuck it in there. What it should do as well, and I didn't notice in the first test images there, is it should be using some of that branded, those branded hex values in the colors so that it pulls out right. That one looks a bit more on brand. It's not perfect yet, but it's using the yellows, and I think that red is an accent color that I gave it as well. So that was. I'll stop there. I don't need to keep test driving it and seeing what we can get out of it. But that's a quick way to build an image generator, and then maybe just to finish it off, what I'll do is I'll share it into another workspace. So to do that, this is actually about to change in the app. We're actually working on a different way of sharing agents. But to share an agent right now, you can come back to its agent settings page and then press save, and then it asks you, do you want to share this into another workspace, or are you only working in the image generation workspace? And so I can say, let's put it in the content flywheeling workspace. And now that agent will be in here as well. There it is, Nano Banana Auto Hive. So now let's say that I want this brand voice specialist to always generate an image at the end of its process. I've come to the settings page now for the brand voice specialist, and I go add integrations and agents. And instead of choosing an integration, click on the agents tab just there. And now you can give this agent another agent that's inside the workspace that it can use as a tool. So in this case, we would give it the Nano Banana Auto Hive Images agent and press save. And then you would be able to have a conversation with this one agent for brand voice specialist and say, okay, thanks for the process you've just completed. I need an image to go with that. So can you grab one from the Nano Banana Auto Hive Images agent? And it will then use that tool, get an image, and ping it back to you in the chat. So that's how you use an agent as a tool. And obviously you could use that agent as a standalone agent as well. But I just wanted to show the steps to add an agent as a tool.